in this LGBT community, why do we even need to talk about it? What I'm saying is that if darkness is evolving, light also needs to learn to evolve. We need to arise, shine, for our light has come. Yeah. We either cast them away or we say, come in. You are one of us. Which one? I'm not one of them. I'm not.
What's up, family? Welcome back to B's Corner Podcast. It's your guy, Biama Joseph Ayuba, aka The B, but I don't stink. It's really great to have you guys back on the channel, and I'm really excited to be back here. I have my guy, Rampy.
Yes,
I'm really very excited to introduce Rampy back to you guys again. And you know, every time we get together, it's a banger. It's something hot coming your way. Rampy, welcome back, man.
Thanks, man.
I'm really excited to have you
Glad
back.
to be here.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, like always, you know, me and Rampy, we hit it very hot. We're coming back with a subject that, you know, I'm sure many of you may consider very sensitive, right? I know that is a sensitive subject, but let's dive into it and then we'll decide how it goes. We're talking about the the LGBTQ movement, how it impacts the church culture. I'm sure it is something you have been looking forward to hear us discuss, and we're here to talk about that. Rampy, you're a church boy, like I am, right? There seems to be a new wave. I don't know if I'll call it new.
Yeah.
I don't think it's new, but maybe within the context of Africa and Nigeria, we could say new, right? And it is the wave of the LGBTQ culture, the wave of the LGBTQ movement and how it impacts the church, right? To start the conversation, as a church boy that you have been, and of course a pastor, what would you say the current posture of the Nigerian church, so that we're contextualizing the conversation? What would you say the posture of the Nigerian church is around the subject of LGBTQ? How do they perceive this? How do they see it? What is their posture? What do they think about it?
Okay, that's the question, yeah?
Yeah, that's the question. That's where we should start from, right?
Oh,
Let's look at the posture of the church.
All right. The truth is, this question is not going to be a very simple and a straightforward question.
I know, right? I know.
To answer, because there are many things that are actually involved in this question, and we need to find ways to simplify it. Because first of all, there's the cultural context to this matter. There's even the legal context to this matter. What do I mean? The Nigerian church is basically a very conservative church.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And Nigerians are generally speaking now, before we enter into even the church context now, Nigeria is generally a very religious country.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
So that means that there's a religious perspective that we have to the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
All right? Then the legal aspect of it is that there's this, I think it's called the Homosexual Prohibition Act of 2013.
Recently.
It's 2013,
right?
Yes, it's 2013.
Oh, yeah, it's been a few years.
Yes, you see it now. Constitutionally, the Nigerian constitution does not permit it. So we can say that even legislatively, there is a position that Nigeria as a nation has taken concerning the LGBTQ community. However, we cannot deny the fact that there are people who are in that community and they are in Nigeria. There was a statistics that I saw which is very, very scary to me, and I hope it is not even true, because the statistics was carried out in a way that people were given opportunity to answer questions and at a very wide range. And from that particular statistic, they realized that about 15 to 20% of Nigerians are in that community. Then we come down to the fact that some of these communities are actually within church. See, that's a very scary number when you come to think about it. But then let's calm down again a bit and see how the body language of the church is to this community. Of course, it cannot be the same. Because on one side of it, you see, there are people who, the conservative side of it, who shun at it.
Yeah, completely.
Right? Completely. And the problem is that the extreme parties, they don't even want to talk about it at all. But my problem is we need to learn as a church to be able to confront and have what you call critical conversation. It's one of those things that I learned at a very young age, that in order for you to know how truthful a matter is, you need to learn to confront it at face value, right? Like both of us are friends. Sometimes we might have frictions and all that. We have to learn to be honest and have critical conversations concerning matters.
That's true.
Now, in this LGBT community, why do we even need to talk about it? Because it is there.
It's there. It's right in our faces.
It's right in our faces. So even if you try not to talk about it, it's still there, staring you in the face. There are many people who it looks like because of their presence, they are adding to that number.
Yeah.
And if there's an addition to the LGBTQ community, it means that there's a subtraction within the conservative setting of even the church. And that poses to be a problem.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You had
So the issue, now I'm talking about now from the conservative side of it. Now then there's the other side, which is trying to be all liberal and accepting. And that church culture is trying to propagate the concept of inclusion now. The problem I have with inclusion is that you are trying to include them, let them feel accepted, but you don't want to change them. And when I say change in this context, I mean you don't want to redeem them.
You don't want to redeem them.
You don't want to redeem them. So you just feel like God loves you. It's true. God loves me. That's why he redeemed me. And in order for God to redeem me, he had to change me. Let me tell you something about the nature of man. The nature of man is what determines the destiny of man. If we go back to the concept of the fall, the only way that man's destiny could have changed is that man's nature had to change. That's what the concept of the fall is. And in order for man to be redeemed, the nature of man needed to be changed. That's where the concept of the new creation now comes in. Now, you see, but again, everything boils down to sound theology, sound teaching, honest teachings that borders around the concept of what the truth is and what the gospel is. And forgive me for, sounding the way I'm sounding right now. But I'm just saying that in order for us to be able to help people, we have to be able to tell them the truth in their face.
The truth. Okay, great. Man, Rampi, you said so much in one breath, right? So let me try to let me backtrack a little bit, because we're still looking at the position of the church, and in fact the Nigerian church, for context, right? And in fact the entire Nigerian society now, would I say society, the position that they have assumed concerning this matter. Growing up as a young chap, so LGBTQ was never a thing, so to speak, but we had a semblance of that reality living around us. So I grew up in the north, right? And sorry to anyone who doesn't understand the language of Hausa. I'm going to say something in Hausa right now. There's this group of people that were called the Endaudus when I grew up. And what are these people? They were young men who behaved like ladies.
They were effeminate.
Say that word again.
It's effeminate, right?
Effeminate. Yeah, that's the word, right? So they acted like ladies. They spoke like they were men, right? But they spoke like ladies. Their mannerism, the way they carried themselves. Right? They were men, but like ladies. Now, for us, growing up, for me, and for people within the context of that generation, it was some sort of a sickness, as a matter of fact. That was what we were made to believe. That whoever acted like that had some kind of some sickness. Something wrong with them. Right? And so for us, it was even a matter of compassion when we saw someone act like that. In that manner, we were compassionate towards them. And well, at some point, we made fun of them. When we saw a young guy behave like a lady, we just laughed and we say, "Oh, this one is Nandauduan." It was nothing. But fast forward a few years down the line, this thing began to become a culture. Suddenly, we had people, young men who had desires for young men, young ladies who had desires for young ladies, and it was becoming some sort of a phenomenon. My first reaction was confusion, right? Like, okay, what is this? But I didn't really give so much thought to it, right? I'm trying to lay a foundation of my own experience with the LGBTQ community. Now, we cannot deny the fact that, like you said, it is staring us right in our face. It is a global phenomenon now. It's a reality that many people live in.
True.
But, interesting fact, it's almost as though the Nigerian church especially doesn't even know what to do about this.
Yeah, this is where, you see, but this is where the problem is. It still goes back to what we're actually talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we should be selective about what darkness we need to quench and what darkness our light needs to shine in. Now, the fact that this community and these people are amongst us means that we really need to rise up to the occasion. Or let me say with the occasion now, this time around, because, it is a trending thing now.
Yes.
So we have to be able to have an answer. This is where the concept of apologetics now comes. It's not about you defending your faith, but having a right answer to be able to answer a matter, right? Both intelligently and of course spiritually too. Because the problem is that it is ravaging the society. Usually when we're talking about things like this, my thought is always traveling to the architects of this concept. What exactly is their intention? That's the first. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Because we need to know what their drive is in order for us to be able to know whether we have to redirect, the thoughts of these people. You see, since we are talking LGBTQ, right? I remember the first time I heard about trans. The concept of trans. I know. It's such a scary.
I truly agree.
I could never have thought in my life that a man could transition into a woman, and that a woman could transition into a man. And it was just, it had never been an idea, but these things are actually dwelling among us. Now, but also I have seen the other part of it where I've seen stories of people who transitioned and now are looking forward to detransitioning. Right?
Whoa, man.
Yes, of course, they are looking forward to it because they don't realize that
back to what they were original.
Yeah, and I think that that process seems to be even more difficult than the transition in itself.
Of course.
Yeah, I remember the story of a guy who is a man, castrated himself, decided that he wanted to be a woman, and then when he got born again, repented. He now cannot retransition.
Of course, he cannot.
He has the regrets, but he is happy that right now he's actually born again. So we're saying that we have to find a bullseye approach, and you see, we need to be very consistent about what we believe, what our value systems are, and let's not forget that these people are also people.
They are.
There is no man that is irredeemable.
Irredeemable. I like that statement.
And because of that, there is hope. And because of that also, we have to create a church system where the people who need help need to be helped. They don't need to be helped in a congregationally, as it were.
No.
But they should be helped systematically.
Talking about people who need help, right? Now, Rampi, it is a reality now that we have young men and young women within the context of the church who right now, there are some who outrightly identify with the LGBTQ community. However, their stories began, right, is something we will maybe consider in the as we build up this conversation. But we have young men and young women who are genuinely concerned. Now, many of them woke up one morning and they found that they had desires, for the same sex. They had these same sex desires, right? I had a conversation with someone. Let me just bring in a very life experience now. I had a conversation with someone who grew up around mostly young ladies. He was the only child. He had sisters and his sisters had friends. So all of his interactions happened within the context of the female gender, right? So somehow that kind of conditioned his mind. He has more female friends. He has female friends, in fact, not no male friends, because of the kind of settings he grew up in. Now, that did something to his mind. According to the story he shared with me, it did something to his mind. Suddenly, he kind of felt like, now, you would think that because he grew up around ladies, he should have affection towards ladies. But he grew very apathetical towards anything that has to do with a woman. Now, for him, his attraction built towards his own same sex.
That's strange. But
he had a lot of, like I said, one would think that because of the fact that you grew up around women, you saw a lot of women, you should have attraction towards women. But somehow it just made him woman-like in his thinking, his attitude, his behavior. Now, what he began to crave for was the attention of a man. So for him, right now, the struggle is that he has emotional attraction towards his same sex, right? And the problem, to where the problem is, right? He said, when he dared to share his story within the context of the church, he could see how helpless his church was in the face of the struggle he had. They didn't know how to help him. In fact, someone outrightly told him that he is a demon. He has an attack. It's a demonic attack. Or all sort of things. And it made him close up. But the struggle is real, and the guy doesn't even know how to get out of it.
Sorry, you see, the thing, you said something here, and I realized that there's a loophole in the church that we really need to deal with. You see, being a pastor puts you in a position of influence and leadership, right?
Yeah.
But one of the requirements of a leader is that a leader must learn to evolve, to grow, to improve, to become better.
Very profound.
The reason is because the more effective you are, the better
you'll be able to help people.
Yes. Now, you see, and one of the things that I've noticed, particularly within the charismatics and the Pentecostals, or we don't think we need to grow. And we don't think we need to be abreast with the current affairs of things that are happening.
Yeah.
You are light of the world. Now, how can you shine forth a light in a world that you're even ignorant of? I don't know if it's making any sense.
Truly,
so now, as you began to talk, I just realized why training pastors is very important.
Totally agree with you.
Consistent training of pastors is very, very important. It means that we need to learn to begin to train men to be able to handle matters like this. And you have to have pastors who are not just, as it were, spiritual in church alone, but that they are well trained and equipped to be able to handle these matters, to be able to help people. Sometimes is this the psychological effect of it needs a psychological knowledge
approach
to be able to help person to be able to heal. I'm not talking about the fact that spiritually people don't really need healing. You can be redeemed spiritually, but your soul is still struggling with certain ties, and that's where the renewing of the mind also comes in. But a mind cannot be renewed when the right intelligence is not there. The church we need to train people. My problem is that when you see a young boy who is just charismatic, you just think you carry positional leadership
and just give to him. Person.
Then when he's faced with a real life matter, the guy is helpless. He doesn't know what to do. Now you have two helpless people looking at each other. So what then are they going
do you know that? Do you know that even I have realized this, that in many cases, right, within the context of the church, and nothing against the church, we're not calling out the church, we're just speaking in real terms.
Real terms.
Do you realize that many times the church does not have conversations to hold with people who seem to come with some kind of a difficult situation, so to speak?
We spiritualize the
just spiritualize it. When someone comes and tells you, I'm struggling with this, the first thing you just want to cast and bind some demon. Or you want to tell them that they are not spiritual. You want to tell them that, we lack even as little as conversations to have with people.
And Biama, another thing is, sometimes all it takes is when you are confronted with a matter that shows your ignorance, be humble, admit that you don't know what to do, but don't end it there. Go back, research,
find out.
Do you know, and this is one of the problem again with many of us, right, within the circle of church. When you want to learn something new, what's the first thing you confront? Is your ignorance. Thank you.
Your ignorance.
The discomfort that comes with confronting your ignorance is what many people don't like. That's why they don't want to learn something. It is easier for you to be comfortable with what you already know than for you. But I'm saying it. Look, it's still the problem is still darkness, but it is evolving. Even this whole LGBTQ, issue. It's not where it is now. It's not where it was 10 years ago.
No.
It's not, but it's still LGBT. That's why there's
Q
plus,
now. There's plus.
My brother. So
it's
you see,
metamorphosing.
It's just getting. But it is still the same issue. So what I'm saying is that if darkness is evolving, light also needs to learn to evolve.
Oh, I love that.
We need to arise, shine, for our light has come.
Yes.
To arise means you wake up to the occasion of the light that is there.
That's right.
So training is this thing you just said. I don't realize that the loophole is there. We need to face and say, okay, now it's not enough. We don't have what it takes to actually deal with this matter, but we're not stopping here. But you cannot pretend that the problem is actually not there. It actually is there, and it must be dealt with. But like I said, there are also people, and there is no human being that is irredeemable. But however, you see that the other thing is we either cast them away or we say, come in. You are one of us. Which one? I'm not one of them. I'm not.
Papa, he said, I'm not one of them. Rampy, calm down. Now, listen. This is very hilarious. See, on the subject of Rampy, I'm not one of them.
Is the truth?
Listen, look, on the subject of having intelligent conversations with people who are genuinely struggling, something happened that became an eye-opener for me. I know I've shared in one of the episodes that I also had a very close brush with the LGBTQ community. As a matter of fact, I really would have gone because there was nothing. I think basically God just kept me. But there was nothing in my conscious mind that wasn't, or subconscious mind, I didn't know how to put it. There was nothing in me that was not willing to open up to that reality, especially because I was even in a season of my life where I was struggling. And I saw affluence, I saw comfort, I saw everything. I saw opportunities to grow, to become a better person, quote and unquote. But I think God just kept me from diving deeper into that. But this is where I'm going to. Something happened. When my mind began to become conscious, when I had that experience with this group of people, I went on a quest for knowledge. I went to research. I began to watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, conversations around the whole LGBTQ thing. And Rampi, you need to hear the intelligence with which these people communicate the reality of this thing.
Yeah.
When you find an intelligent person finishes, articulating this thing, you will be tempted to say, you know what, I think I'm the one who is wrong.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Going back to the fact that you said the church needs to evolve. Light needs to grow up.
Yeah.
We need to...
Our intensity.
Yes.
Yes. We need to increase. We need to learn.
We need to
learn.
Again, I had a conversation. You see, back to something I alluded to in one of our episodes. I said someone confronted me and said to me, look, if you're looking for the most intelligent group of people, the most successful group of people, the most whatever it is group of people you're looking for, you find them amongst the LGBTQ community. And I scanned around me. I was surrounded by very intelligent, articulate, successful group of people. And it made me think for the first time that I think I belong to the wrong community. Again, still talking about our ability to have intelligent conversations, our ability to research, to learn on things. These guys are advancing. They are advancing today in the Western world. Surgeries to transition to a sex of your choice is free.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's free.
Yeah.
And from what do you call here? We call them
toddlers now.
Toddlers from those schools that toddlers preschools, all of. From there, they begin to educate them. They begin to kindergarten and all of that. They begin to infuse in their consciousness that you have the right to choose whatever.
But that's why, sir, that's why I'm asking, what exactly is the intention of the architects of this community? That is what we need to do. And if the church is not also oriented on its own assignment, the kingdom, we will be lost. We will lose a battle that actually we could have actually won.
Yeah.
We will lose in a battle that we have all the help, we have all the resources, and we have all the authority and power to be able to subdue and to conquer. It is no joke, right? That some of these people, part of the reason why they made the progress is because they are visionary, because they are intentional, and they are systematic.
That's right.
And if we don't, you see, I'm just sorry that I'm not finishing my sentence and all of that. If you notice, one of the reasons why it began to blow in the Western world was that they had to make it a constitutional thing because they understand the power of legislation and acceptance too. And when that thing happened, a lot of people started coming out of their cupboard. But now, metaphorically, it's no longer a cupboard because there's nothing to hide anymore. And right now, people are being celebrated in that particular context. But it comes back again. What is the intention of all these things? And what has become of the people who, transition, or people who belong in those communities?
That's right.
What has become of them? We need to try as much as possible as a church to, first of all, face the reality that this is something that we are actually faced with. Right? This is a reality that we're actually faced with. And we need to confront this matter. But the first way to confront it is to stand in the reality of the truth that this is what we represent, right? This is what our core values are.
That's right.
Number two is that we can actually shine our light into yours, into your darkness, and we can redeem you out of this. And number three is to create a system where our community as a church is multiplying. That's the only way that darkness will give way. The light must actually shine forth. And we have to be deliberate about these things. We have to be intentional about these things. That's why we are having this conversation. Because if you notice, it is one of the most difficult conversations that people can have, especially on the pulpit. Because we feel like the pulpit, we have to sermonize our sermons, right? We have to calculate some of the things we're saying. But I thank God for little platforms like this where we can be free enough to have these conversations, right? Even out of the context of the church, but relevant to both the church and also to the world.
Wow, that's so profound when you said relevant both to the church and even the world. And again, we have stated how the church is really lacking in that aspect. Now, let's talk about young people who are struggling now. Right? I've had reasons to interact with people who are genuinely struggling and they want out of this. But somehow their feelings seem to betray them every time they attempt to, stop. Right? I want us to hone in on the fact that there are people amongst us. And when I say amongst us, I mean the church. There are people who are genuinely struggling. But you find that they are unable to speak up concerning it because they know that the first thing that will hit them is judgment, right? I want us to talk to those young people now. There are many stories around how some people got themselves to that point. Some were as a result of molestation. I had a conversation with a young man who said his uncle molested him. And from that point, everything around his feelings, his emotions was towards a man. I'm telling you the truth. I was confused as to how, in fact, I began to feel like something demonic actually happened when that whole molestation happened. But you see, it's in my own thinking. I'm thinking something demonic definitely happened, right? I'm not thinking maybe there was something that happened to his mind or something, right? I'm just saying that there are different ways by which many young people, and not just men, even women, arrived at that point, right? I want us to talk to the hearts of people who are genuinely struggling. What will be the counsel? What will be the modalities that they can follow to be able to, number one, find the boldness to even speak up, and secondly, dare to take the steps towards finding help? Because a lot of people really want to come out of this.
Yeah, it's true. But now that you are saying it this way, I just realized that people who have been through such darkness and came out of it, they may need to verbalize their experiences. That way, the one who is now in that same situation can find solace and strength from the one who had walked on that path and actually came out of it. I know someone who was also molested by his uncle, but today, thank God, he is married, he has healed out of. I think that one of the things that actually holds many of them back, particularly the ones who have been molested, is unforgiveness. Number two is bitterness.
Yes.
The difficulty to be able to let go of the pain. And because you have refused to let go of the pain, that pain has imprisoned you in that same particular habit. So I feel that many people need to forgive the ones that have hurt them. It is not an easy thing to do. That's just the honest thing. I have forgiven before, and I knew what it took from me. And in fact, there's a way you forgive. It's genuine. It's so genuine that you will feel cheated.
That's so
you understand?
But
then eventually you realize that the person who has been set free is not the one you forgave, is you.
It's yourself.
So that particular part of it is actually is necessary. We need to learn to forgive the ones who hurt us. It was not your. Then also forgive yourself. It is not your fault that you were molested by somebody. Sometimes you feel like if I were more powerful, if I were wiser,
this wouldn't have happened.
Yes, things wouldn't have gone this way. Or sometimes if I had not just gone to this house on this particular day that it happened, just forgive yourself. What has happened has already happened. Forgive the one who hurt you. Forgive your own self too, right? This is one of the magic of the healing that will happen. It will bring you to the place of liberty. Now you realize that some of the steps you could not take is because there were some things that were holding you back. And now that those things can't hold you back, it's easy for you to be able to make the progress. And then also as a church, we need to create a community of safety where, like I've always told you, it's not everybody that you need to open up. It's not everybody. Not everybody has the maturity. Not everybody has the training, the ability, the empathy to be able to handle this story that they're giving. Some people, when you have told them the story, that's all. Now they know.
Now they know.
And now you know that they know. And that's it. It has ended there.
That's the end of it.
There's no help. There's no, like we said now, two helpless people are not
just looking at themselves.
You understand? So I think that they need to be selective and discerning in whom they need to share this thing. But if the intention is actually to heal, there is help.
Yeah.
That's the intention from your own.
If the intention is for you to heal.
I had a conversation with someone who needed help, and when I began to ask him, I asked the first question first. Are you actually born again? And the guy could not articulate an answer, and I knew that this is where the problem is. Actually, that means a lot of people don't even have a fundamental knowledge of their salvation experience.
That's right.
But that thing does a lot.
It does a lot.
When you understand what it actually means for you to be saved. So
it does a lot.
What have we been teaching young people in churches? What has been our theology? Does the average young person understand what the gospel is? And see, sometimes these are just the little things that they need to know.
Yeah.
Because theology, like I would always say, will influence your desire. Your desire is what pushes you to have an experience.
Yeah.
So some of these things are very vital for such people to be able to receive experiential help and to be redeemed.
Man, that's so profoundly put. I was just going to add, a question, but I think that this is a very good place to call this episode wraps. We will dig deeper into certain aspects of this conversation in the next episode. I'm sure you have enjoyed listening to this conversation. We're not done. We are only beginning. So we will catch you in the next episode. It has been Biama Joseph, aka the B, and Rampi, my guy. We'll be back.
Right.